All right, everyone. I'm just saying that you can sometimes judge a person by the character of their enemies. Mostly we do guilt by association with people's friends, but I think that the opposite is actually more meaningful. Scott Wiener has a real big problem. Some students at Campbell, this is out in California, decided to form a human swastika, actually, and then posted a Hitler quote associated with this on a social media post. And he's acting like, oh my God, dude, this is more evidence of hate and Nazis and stuff like that. I think that it's evidence of trolling and a good sense of humor. It's good to offend people. Spoke about this a few days ago. I still fondly remember the time that I took some squash. I had these mutated squash that were a hybrid between, I guess, a pumpkin and a butternut squash. I guess they were probably edible. I don't know why you'd want to eat them, though, because they smelled more like a pumpkin. And I laid them out in a swastika in the backyard, and I just had it laying there. And coincidentally, that was when Google scraped the area for its map. And so for several years, there was actually a swastika in my backyard on Google Maps. This is called good fun. It's not aimed at any particular person or even group of people. It's meant to offend. This is high schoolers acting like high schoolers. Scott Wiener, meanwhile, is an AIDS-loving pedophile. He's one of the people responsible for decriminalizing spreading AIDS, and almost simultaneous to that, also decriminalizing sodomizing minors. As long as the age gap isn't too much, it's okay in the state of California now. Yeah, you won't end up on the sex offenders registry, as long as it doesn't involve penis and vagina. So any other form of child molestation is apparently semi-decriminalized in the state of California now. So when the AIDS-loving pedophile, which is what Scott Wiener provably is, based on his legislative record, is complaining about some high schoolers having a lark, which is literally all this is. They were trying to be offensive. That much is clear. The idea that this means they want to gas the Jews, my anti-Semitism, racist, that's all bullshit. High schoolers say all sorts of crazy shit. I had one kid, and he was Jewish too. He would draw the Star of David on all of his folders, and then he would put a swastika in the middle and label it Nazi Jew. He had this on all of his folders in school, and he was Jewish. And it was absolutely hysterical. He was also a stoner. I liked that kid. He copied my homework a couple times. I'm very sorry, Miss Sullivan, but yes, indeed. I admit that I allowed him to copy my homework, technically breaching the ethical guidelines of the National Honor Society, but I didn't care. It was like, he's friendly, he's a nice kid, whatever. It doesn't really make a difference now, does it? High schoolers get up to all sorts of crazy shit. Look at the senior pranks that they do all the time. Somebody stuffed a bunch of alarm clocks with random ringers set up into the ceiling of various rooms for part of our senior prank, and then they stole somebody's, I think, golf cart and managed to get it into the front room, and all sorts of weird stuff was that people were setting off stink bombs, and uh, me and my friend Nick actually were briefly discussing getting 4 pigs from like a local farm and numbering them 1, 2, 3, and 5 so that they would perpetually be searching for pig number 4 or something like that. Kids get up to crazy stuff. They're teenagers. Hell else are they supposed to do? They're supposed to rebel. They're supposed to do things that offend the sensitivities of older people. Thankfully, I never matured, so it's very, very difficult to offend me. Most adults are not like that, though. Most adults, they like look at the way they talk about Gen Z. I've said the kids are all right. Don't worry about it. Yeah, they're gonna dye their hair to shock their parents. Well, these days, actually, if they want to shock their parents, they'll end up going cottagecore or something like that, because the parents tend to be, pink-haired themselves. So it's actually there's a little bit of inversion going on, I suppose. This is an example of this. This is something that wouldn't have been even really particularly edgy maybe 20 years ago. It would have been funny, and people would have laughed at it. Now you see a bunch of people on behalf, by the way, of the supposedly aggrieved getting offended at this. This often happens with race too. A black person is insulted. 99% of the people that rise up to complain about it are upper middle class NIMBYist white liberals. They get offended on other people's behalf. Now, in this case, of course, Wiener is Jewish, so at the very least, he's in the category of people who legitimately could be conceivably offended by people making a human swastika. But who cares? They're not hurting anyone. Unlike leftoids lately, taking shots at Tim Pool's house and blowing Charlie Kirk's head off and trying to assassinate the presidential candidate Donald Trump. We see lots of violence on the left. You see relatively less with regards to the so-called right wing, and we don't even know what the political proclivities of these kids are. They're high schoolers. Even liberal high schoolers are going to find such a thing funny. Probably their liberal friends were laughing at this. They've been untainted by the Harry Sissons of the world thus far, and therefore they do not take offense as easily. Try offending high schoolers. They insult each other all the time, especially if they're male. We insult each other constantly when we're besties. Men tend to do this. Like, hey, fucktard, get over here. You loser. What's wrong with you? Hey, you're looking fatter lately. This is conceived of as funny. Females may not fully understand this. Uh, we do that when we're friendly with someone, not when we're being bitchy towards them. Men and women, of course, being opposites, gender-wise, so we are not biologically the same. That includes the mentality. But this is, who cares? It's some kids laying in the middle of a football field making a human swastika. Oh my God. It's basically like another Shoah or something like that. Apparently, Scott Wiener, the AIDS-loving pedophile, wants you to believe that. I find it very, very funny that someone who is objectively objectionable, which is Scott Wiener, would complain about some high school kids. Wow. Nothing more terrible has happened in recent memory. Nobody's been shot for their political beliefs. Steve Scalise didn't spend months in the hospital in rehab. Charlie Kirk is still alive. Donald Trump never had his fight, fight, fight moment. Tim Pool never got his house shot at. I never got swatted, and so on forth. Meanwhile, we're worried about kids making a swastika in a football field. Come on, dude. Seriously. Get a goddamn life. It's funny because he's in contention to replace Nancy Pelosi. And the other dude is a fucking commie. So I don't know. Yeah, basically, it's cyanide versus arsenic as usual within politics. You've got the pedophile who wants to give people AIDS and bugger little boys, or the dude who's a complete communist, like a card-carrying commie. That's going to be Nancy Pelosi's replacement. I think I would, over the three of them, I think I'd say, Nancy, please live a little bit longer and stay in office because these people are way more moronic than you. This is petulant moronism. And if you look at the responses, you'll see a few responses are like, oh, we should investigate, the FBI needs to investigate this and shit like that. Most people, though, are dumping on him and saying, come on, these are high schoolers. Do you really want to dumb them down? Try. Try it. See what happens. They'll develop their own language creoles. They'll develop their own gestural systems. I think you'd be surprised. The youth is capable of very, very large numbers of things. It's going to be like latchkey kids mode. They're going to get in trouble. They're going to do stupid shit, and they're also going to do funny shit. They're high schoolers, the teenagers. No shit, Sherlock. They're trying to offend you. They seem to have been highly successful in this endeavor. I wonder why. That's about all. Peace out.